Hey there, friends. This is Pastor Brad, and you're watching the Prophecy News Brief, where we bring you the news today that is connecting prophecy for tomorrow as outlined in the Bible. Now, before we get going, I want to remind you of our August 1st, 2026 Prophecy Conference happening in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. You can sign up online, and there is on-site options available where you can be up close and personal with some of our great speakers. Or if you can't make it out to Gettysburg, we do have an online option. But I want to tell you, space is filling up fast. So please get registered now. And there are special hotel rates for everyone that is staying there at the Wyndham Gettysburg. So please get connected right now with the Abraham to Armageddon Conference happening August 1st. 2026. Hope to see you there. Look, today's news story isn't the mark of the beast. It's probably not even close to the mark of the beast, but it has definitely moved us a couple inches closer towards the day when the world will be forced to take that mark. It is unmistakably part of the control that is behind the mark of the beast. Beginning February 1st, the TSA will begin charging Americans $45 if you show up in an airport without a real ID, a passport, or other approved federal identification. This is the first time in American history that simply not having the right ID will cost you money. Incredible. Incredible. Now, let's break this down a little bit. Let's talk about what happened. On December 1st, the TSA announced that passengers lacking real ID, which is a compliant license, a federalized state ID is essentially what it is. Or if you don't have that, a passport or other approved credential, you'll be forced into a new system called TSA Confirm ID. So what's going to happen is if you don't have the real ID, well, then you're going to be routed over to a different line where you're going to have to go through more scrutiny and take longer to get through the security screening at the airport. Now, if your ID isn't federalized, you must pay $45 to travel domestically. The Confirm ID process, which is what the $45 is supposed to pay for, will be mandatory for anybody without a real ID, requiring additional screening, longer wait times, having to verify your name, address, background, and that can vary from airport to airport. And the TSA is partnering with a private industry to create online payment options. Here's the kicker. Only 6% of Americans still lack real ID. This move targets a small minority that don't want it, don't think they need it, or just haven't taken the time to get it. But this is how conditioning works. Start small, normalize it, expand it later. Now, why does this matter prophetically? This has nothing to do with safety, friends, and everything to do with surveillance, control, and compliance. Real ID was actually passed after 9/11/2001, over 24 years ago, but delayed for decades because states just simply rejected the idea of having a federalized national ID system. But now, under the guise of security, the federal government has been quietly building a standardized nationwide system that verifies identity, movement, and compliance. That's why you go to the TSA line, they scan your face, they take your picture, they're doing facial recognition, they're doing all these things. And if you opt out of it, well, then you're going to have to go through the longer line, and it's going to cost you more hassle when you're trying to get through airline security. Now, understand, I want to be clear about this. This is not the mark of the beast, but it is definitely fuel for the engine that Revelation 13 describes, where an emerging system comes to dictate that whether or not you can buy or sell, or your identity is digitally verified, or what your movement is and how that is regulated. And you're just compliance with the beast system. And that is all going to be financially enforced. So today it's $45, but tomorrow, well, you can travel only if your ID is active. or you can only enter if your status is green, or you can buy, but only if your account is first approved and your social credit score is okay. This is the same incremental strategy that we saw during COVID policies, where policies were first optional. Well, we're just going to, we want some people to start getting the jab, or wear a mask or this. And it was all optional. And then it was recommended and then required and then enforced with penalties. Things are happening incrementally and growing and building. Consider what Scripture says in Revelation 13:16 through 17. It says that no one may be able to buy or sell except one who has the mark. The principle behind the mark is simple. Access controlled by compliance. Same principle with the real ID. You want to get through the airport quicker? You don't want to have to pay the $45? Get your real ID. And incidentally, I talked about this a few weeks ago, that Vietnam banks have frozen millions of accounts because they haven't complied with digital IDs. And so that same structure behind digital IDs or vaccine passports or social credit score or central bank digital currencies and now real ID enforcement, it's incremental, it's strategic, it's conditioning, it's getting you used to doing just one more thing to be compliant. The prophet Daniel warned of a final empire that would be different from all others. In Daniel 7:23, he says, this empire will be different from all others. The scaffolding is being built in plain sight. The structure is coming together. There is a subtle shift happening from government as servant to government as gatekeeper, and we've got to know the difference. For the first 200 some years of American history, the government facilitated travel. We saw this with stagecoaches or the trains and this and this and this and roads and highways and airports and airlines and so on and so forth. Now it regulates it, and if you are not compliant, it charges you. This is the quiet shift from freedom to permission. Instead of you are free to travel unless prohibited, it has moved to you are prohibited from traveling unless approved. And this is the exact kind of incremental change that future global governance structures will exploit. One database, one identity, one standard, one global system. So what do we need to know about this? And what do we need to do? Well, here are the IDs TSA says is now acceptable. Real ID compliant driver's license. I have one. I have a passport, and passports and passport cards are acceptable. Global entry or trusted traveler cards. I have one of those. I'm in and out of the country all the time. Lawful permanent resident cards, military and veteran IDs, tribal IDs, foreign passport cards, some Canadian documents. If you don't have one of those, expect more screening, longer delays, a $45 fee, and pressure to get into the system. You can bet that when you have to go through the non-compliant line, it is going to be a major inconvenience. This isn't about fear. And I have a real ID. This isn't about do or do not get the real ID. This isn't about rebelling against the real ID. What I'm showing you today is how they use these subtle shifts and inconveniences to enforce a policy and compliance. And that is what is going to happen with the beast system. Jesus said, when these things begin to take place, stand up, lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. So when the government begins verifying ID so you can get on the plane, or controlling movement, or charging compliance, and partnering with private industry to create digital prepayment systems, friends, we are witnessing the architecture, Revelation 13, the final touches, the finishes coming into place. Not the mark, but definitely the framework, definitely the structure for it. And this is why Bible prophecy matters. This is why we have to stay awake. This is why discernment matters. This is why knowing Christ matters. And most of all, we have to understand the beast system isn't coming someday. It's assembling now, piece by piece, policy by policy, step by step. But the church doesn't panic. We prepare, we proclaim, and we keep our eyes on Jesus, our blessed hope. Because when the beast system is coming together, when all of this framework is being put into place, we know that the trumpet is about to sound. My name is Pastor Brad Reeves, and this is Coming Soon Ministries Prophecy News Brief.